Welcome in. This is your odds checker betting preview for this week's Travelers Championship. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, Geoff Fienberg. And Geoff, despite major championship hangover, despite Live Golf trying to take all the golfers away from the PGA Tour, there is a tournament to be played, and there is an odds board that we need to figure out.
I'm telling you, Rick, coming to the week, it's after a U.S. Open with another heartbreaking T2. And it's just like, I get so emotionally invested in this stuff, and we do the content each week, and it's like, I just want a breather. Like, I'd be happy to do nothing. And it's Tuesday morning, and there's like 100 minutes of golf I feel like I'm ready to talk about from all of it. So, and the least of it is this tournament. That's the weird part. All these storylines continue to take away from the tournaments at hand, but it's the reality we are living in. I don't want to go down like a road here. I'll just say I don't do change well. I don't like when my favorite websites like change, even if they make them better. Like, I'm rattled. And then saddened to know that like things are going to clearly be fractured. Like, you take the money, want to take the money. I think it's fair to ask you the questions about it. Take it. I'm just saddened. You know, to think it's going to have like this Champions League where like there's just going to be these rare occasions like majors where everyone gets together. I'm spoiled. Maybe we were spoiled all this time, but my overall attitude is just sad at this point. Not to see guys get rich, just to see something that I truly enjoy be very much fractured.
Yeah, I guess we didn't know necessarily how good we had it when everybody was playing in all the same fields all the time. But you're right. It's now, we are very much entering a phase of unknown. We are entering a phase of change, and changing quickly, Geoff, right? Like the way it was last week is different than the way it was this week. And probably in 3 weeks, it's going to look entirely different as well. So it's madness. It's mad. And we don't get this in golf, do we?
No, and like you said, spoiled is probably the right word. There'd be some great young European, and we'd all just, okay, when's he moving to Orlando or Scottsdale to now try to just be a PGA golfer? That was the only thing. He's going to leave the European Tour player behind, move to Florida, and start his quest. And we get to have him every week on our side.
Yeah.
It's no more. It's, yeah. I don't know, it'll make the majors bigger, which is also an exciting element too, which I can't deny. Like, maybe that's a little positive, is the majors, which we already obsess over, will actually become even bigger. So that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, but the majors should be worlds colliding.
Yeah. Like, you know, to see those guys finally battling for the first, just weird. There are many layers, but this week my layer is just overall sadness. And yeah, but if you make money, I whatever, that's life.
Yeah,
it's part of it.
I'm with you, brother. Well, we are headed just 97 miles down the road from Brookline to Hartford, Connecticut for the Travelers Championship. TPC River Highlands plays host, as it has every year since, I don't know, probably before I was born. And there's a couple of clear favorites on the grid here. Geoff, Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler, they are co-favorites at 11-1, with Justin Thomas right behind at 12-1. You could also get Patrick Cantlay, who has a great record around TPC River Highlands, at 16, or you could round out the sub-20s with a Sam Burns at 18-1. Anything of note here at the top of the board?
Of note is it clearly seems like Jay Monahan is sending the boys out like Vince McMahon on the house show circuit. Rick, no rest for the big boys. Although Travelers, they always love it. I have not made a move here yet. I have not run to make a move. I've thought about, I think Spieth is very fair, and there are even some boosts around the market if you want to go hunt for them at the moment. But yeah, like a lot of events, I am kind of really liking the 30 to 60 range, and past history at the Travelers has been very successful in that range for me, from English to Bubba to DJ. So I don't know, that is where I am zoned in on, but it's the week after a major. There are so many good players at the very top. You do run that risk of one of them playing excellent, certainly.
Yeah, two observations from last week from being on site. Jordan Spieth was very, very sick on Thursday and didn't look all that good on Friday either. I'm wondering if it's an opportunity to just buy low on a guy who, honestly, Geoff, he cleaned it up the final 3 rounds. He gained across the board in the strokes gained metrics. going back to a place that he's won before. And then Sung Jae, who missed the cut. It is impossible to tell whether a guy at the range is doing what he wants to be doing and whether that's good or not. But they had the shot tracer up, and Sung Jae must have hit 15 shots in a row that were the exact carry, the exact spin rotation, the exact everything on Saturday. After he misses the cut, he's on the range grinding.
So, as I mentioned, I totally agree with that Spieth call, and I'm seeing numbers pushed up, and he is that one player under 30 that has my attention because the ball striking remains. And I didn't even consider, you reminding me that he was sick early in the week. That was sort of out of sight, out of mind for me. I was already just ready to ignore last week as it pertained to Spieth. He didn't even play poorly, just going off history and the events leading in, like I'm going to do for some other players. I have bet Sung Jae, put it on the board. I bet him last week. I'm like a lot of people who took the egg on it, their face. I, had an early bigger number, but the 35s to ones that were out there, they're still 33s. He went off at the US Open at like 38 to 1 last week, Rick. I loved his play coming in. I'm willing to be an apologist for whatever happened last week. You making your comments about seeing it firsthand on the range after has me even more excited. And he's not the only name in this range that I have my eye on, certainly.
Yeah, so let's continue here. This is where we enter the Joaquin Niemans of the world, the Keegan Bradleys of the world, Tony Finau. All of these, you should be using the grid to shop. Tony Finau, for example, is short as 28 to 1 in some places, as long as 40 in others. That's quite a significant gap. And then, Geoff, before we get into the 50s, we rounded out with Brooks Koepka, and I'll even throw in, no, let's just stop there at Brooks, because there's a lot of guys at 50 itself. Is there someone else here that I've touched on for you?
Okay, we're going to stay in front of those 50s for the moment?
Just for it, yeah.
Okay, just for the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm always looking at Niemann. I think the number is fair, but I am like... let's say I'm on a diet and you put this biggest piece of cake in front of me. I don't have willpower, Rick. I'm not mentally strong enough. Tony Finau, 40 to 1. I'm following the same script with my Sung Jae bet. There'll be bets I make that are on guys who had nice, quiet US Opens that trends show well is a nice thing for the Travelers. But outside of the majors, Tony's last 3 finishes are 2, 4, and 2. With ungodly ball striking stats. You posted a stat out of Canada at the Rick Run Good Twitter feed that showed he'd have won 94 of the last 100 events with his ball striking stats. He only got outdone by Rory, who went into God mode in Canada. I can't quit, Tony. I love Tony. People watching this. Why am I watching? I know you're betting Tony. I'm sorry. It's 40 to 1 in this regular event. With the stats show, it's a summer of Tony. It could be coming. I can't quit it. I'll go off Fienberg deviation in a moment, but it ain't going to be on Finau at 40 over at DraftKings. And you mentioned that odds checker grid discrepancy.
Yeah, big gap there. Okay, the 50s. There are at least 3 guys in the 50s that I have already clicked on. So here we go. Big bunch of them. Aaron Wise sits here at 50 to 1. Brian Harman, Davis Riley, Seamus Power, Tommy Fleetwood, Mark Leishman, and Mito Pereira are 55 to 1, Geoff, but I've got 3 clicks already in this range.
Yeah, so this is, and you could even include Keegan, but Keegan's at 33. There's this great trend that's showing of guys that had just quality, held their own performances at a tough US Open, have great success the next week at the Travelers. We saw that happen specifically with English last year, who barnstormed it and had won the Travelers. Reevy a couple years ago in Pebble barnstorms to a T3, comes out next week, wins Travelers. So between Wise, Riley, Power, Leishman, there's a handful of guys in this range that sort of have my attention. And I think Mito number has kind of found its level there, Rick. Like maybe in a major after the other one, and Memorial Water doesn't find its level, but I think we're at a very fair place with Mito. So an interesting part of the board. I have made one move in this part. I'll let you talk me into one of your others. I've bet Seamus Power this week, so he is on my card as well. 3 bets in already. Tell me who you've hit in this range, but I'm staring at him. Riley, Wise, Leishman, Mito, they could all end up on, well, not all, but one or two of them certainly could find their way into my portfolio this week.
So Seamus is one of them, and worth noting that he's 28 to 1 in some places, 50 in others, which is wild stuff. I'm back to the well on Aaron Wise, and the third one is Davis Riley. Davis Riley, Geoff, ever since Zurich, I've been making this joke that he partnered up with Will Zalatoris and he kind of stole some of his superpowers because he's been unbelievable since then. And he's been piling up the advanced metrics. He gained more strokes on approach than Justin Thomas last week. Like it's coming for Davis Riley. And this is the type of field, this is the type of setup where you think it's really good for him. And I like sprinted to it at 50 to 1.
I totally agree with that. And I know you're a wise truther, so I want to tell you this. I want to give you this encouragement because after his Memorial performance, I was like talking to other wise truthers. Like if he plays well at the US Open, his Travelers number is going to be like 28 to 1. And you're lucky he kind of just disappeared out of sight, out of mind on the weekend because you were about to fully lose your Aaron Wise number equity without getting the win. I think 50 with his current form, you run it back. I mean, he had a strong US Open. He had a strong Memorial. He was coming in fire before that. I think this 50 for you wise truthers, you might feel blessed to have this number. I could be jumping on board with you there, certainly.
Yeah, I was shaking in my boots that he was going to find a way to win the US Open, and I wasn't going to have any part of it after all the money I've invested in Aaron Wise over the years. Okay, now let's go a little bit further here. This is where we start to get some of the bigger jumps. HV3, Harold Varner III leads us off at 65 to 1. You can get Denny McCarthy if you think that he's ready to back up another good performance from last week at 66 to 1. Jason Day and Jason Kokrak at 80. Geoff, there's a couple notable names before we get to the triple digits.
Yeah, a couple notable ones. Certainly Denny McCarthy. I mean, who fits what we said better in terms of that US Open weekend Sunday trend than Denny McCarthy as it bleeds into the Travelers? Ball striking, putting always will play well for you in a Travelers victory. So he is on my radar. Like a lot of people, I didn't run to make that bet. I know a lot of people like ran to do it on a Monday morning. And I don't know, Varner 65, Rick, like that. I don't know. I mean, I know you've done a lot of writing on Varner. You've been preaching the altar of Varner. Just give me your 1-2s on that this week because I'm a biased and I'm not put my face in the cake like I did with Finau, but I have weaknesses. But this is one I am trying to sort of stay away from, like Fleetwood, who I don't think I'm betting. But Varner could get that Fleetwood money that you folks normally see me lose on.
It's so bizarre. I think if we played like 1,000-hole tournament or just like 1,000 holes in a row, HV3 would beat a lot of his peers. The problem is these are 72 holes, and when he gets to like hole 63 and realizes he's at the top of the leaderboard, things go sideways. So there's kind of a gap in the advanced metrics, how good he plays for the first 85% of a golf tournament and how he closes it out, which is always a little bit concerning because
Matthew Fitzpatrick just did it.
There you go. You just but Fitzpatrick at least had 7 wins prior on around the world.
Yeah.
He's got 2, 3.
No, you're not wrong, but I often would joke with Fitzpatrick that we'd get to the back nine Sunday, he'd be contending, and the strengths of his games abandon him. Like, not even the things he didn't do well, like the things he does do well, like start to disappear. But you're right with Varner. We've seen him top a ball in the lead at Riviera on the back nine. We saw that disaster on a putting green on the back nine at might have been the Schwab or something recently that broke my heart. Yeah, so let's move on. Let's clear through 100. I've overrated Maverick McNeely's play all season, clearly, when I deep dive the numbers this week, Rick, so I'm staying away from that, although I feel like I haven't seen him in a while, and maybe he could show up, but when I look at it, my perception didn't match reality, I promise you.
Yeah, I've got probably 2 clicks left above 100 to 1, so Brendan Todd, this is probably a great spot for him. Remember, this is the shortest par 70 on tour. It's the second shortest course in general on tour. So these guys that play out of the fairway, these guys that don't require distance, like a Brendan Todd at 100 to 1. The other one is doesn't necessarily fit the mold, but Cam Davis, anywhere from 90 to 150 to 1. So, Geoff, there's this weird thing where he's So a lot of these bombers, you go to a course like this and you're like, it's not a great setup for bombers, but then you realize that short courses, these guys club down and they're a lot more accurate and they're a lot more precise. And the metrics actually get better for Cam Davis on a short course, which is exciting. And then I'll throw just one more. I'm waiting for Brooks Koepka to officially withdraw from this event or anybody else, which will get Beau Hossler in the field.
Ooh.
And Beau Hossler as the first alternate has like 2 top 10s here in the last 4 years, is playing sneaky good right now. Like I'm ready to lose money on Beau.
Okay, I will join you with Beau. Like I'll declare that he gets in. I'm betting Beau. I'm worried. It's one of those annoying things where someone's going to have to message their sports book. Can you put him in? He just got in the field. And then that will make them aware that people want it. I'm the type of person that says nothing, hope they notice that he's just in the field and get a number. Because I feel like the moment I ask for it, they know they can squeeze
points off of that.
Yeah. A good friend of mine made a great joke with me this weekend also. He's like, can you ask a sports book for a bet where at one point in a tournament, Beau Hossler will be top 10, and at another point in the tournament, he'll be in the bottom 10. It is, and I'm a Beau fan. Like people follow my tweet, my other content. Like I root for the guy. It's one of the few high crowns out there, which I support. Visor, that is. For me, north of 100, Rick, Matthew Neesmith has my attention. He's also a guy who made a mess of the first hole on Sunday, but quietly had himself a nice U.S. Open. I saw it around 150, but I know the grin might give me. Yeah, so he's out there. It's that ball striking that can really take over for him. You have to plug your nose on the putter. That happens, I guess, a lot. And as you bring up Neesmith, I'll throw out has Sepp Straka totally lost his game, Rick? Because why wouldn't I want to maybe bet on a player like this? Or is this course not hard enough for a Sepp?
Yeah, I saw this number 2 and I was like, what is going on here? I think, and I was in agreement with you on overrating Mav McNeely's game earlier this year. And I think Straka's he's been fine. I don't know if you want to bet on fine, but it's now just like slightly better than tour average type of stuff.
Yeah. And Shane Lowry's not playing, and that's when he finds a way to play his best at the end, is when he can take it from Shane Lowry. So
that's right. When Shane Lowry can get a little bit of rain and melt down for all the world to see. Geoff, always a pleasure, bud. That was a lot of fun. You can follow Geoff on Twitter at GFienberg17. You can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your odds checker betting preview for this week's Travelers Championship. Good luck.